All right, TwinAquarius back. And I want to talk about truth. I've been thinking about the truth a lot in this for the past year. 2019, all 2019, I've been thinking about truth and what that really means. Because I've been learning how to tell the truth properly and what it means to really tell the truth. And how do I know it's the truth as well? Because Jordan Peterson, when he talks about saying things that you know to be true, or not saying things that you know not to be true, basically. And I've been trying. I used to have dreams of my teeth falling out, or nightmares about my teeth falling out, and I love my teeth. So this was like the worst thing for the longest. I didn't know what that meant. Just a lot of dreams. And once I started being more honest about the things I say, the dream stopped. Like, I don't think I've had a nightmare like that in such a long time. I'm so glad I haven't. But the truth is, the truth isn't complicated, but it's funny because truth is always stranger than fiction, right? There's that phrase. So I think that's why it's so easy to lie, because you can say something that sounds believable, because we're in this inverted, as John Pajot likes to say, in this inverted world where we can't really tell which way is up and down anymore. So I had to recenter myself and figure out the directions of everything again, and find out, and also find all the cracks where things are slipping in and becoming lies or untruths, and things that I didn't want to say out loud, maybe because I didn't want to admit it. So I learned to start admitting things that were true, that I felt were true. Because if something wasn't true, if something wasn't totally true, I just wouldn't say it. Of course, being a hot-tempered woman, I do try to keep some things to I try to keep certain things to myself, because I don't want to anger the people who I care about or make them upset. And those things that I would have said to make them upset aren't true. So there's that. My humor, or my comedy skill, has taken a bit of a dive though, because I'm trying to work with being honest and being funny still. But I suppose this is why they say women can't be funny. Well, who knows? At least not funny without being dishonest. But so I just started. It's like this. Like, I've been trusting my intuition fully. I started with doing that, and that was hard for me to do, because this all ties into my role of becoming a shaman as well. But accepting my spiritual truth was a major thing, because it was following your intuition is like something that I felt would make people call me crazy, but I didn't. But it's funny, because I actually feel less. I feel less crazy since following my intuition directly and following my dreams and going with my first thoughts about this kind of stuff. One of my best friends taught me about doing that as well, but she was good at giving the advice, but not so good at following it herself. And I hope she learns to do that, honestly. But I'm glad she taught me this lesson. Learning to do this, like, flow naturally with my actual thoughts as they come to my mind, and using everything that I know to formulate my ideas and add on to my ideas things that supplemented. And not that I'm reading things, because I actually like to challenge my own ideas just to make sure that I'm getting the best information, or make sure that my ideas aren't just whimsies. I like to ground them in the knowledge that I learn from books and from people and all that kind of stuff. And I like to look up opposing opinions as well, just to see where my ideas stack up next to that. For me, I'm a type 8 person, so I'm okay with doing that. Some people might be harder, but I highly recommend it, because it challenging your own ideas actually helps you find the truth. Because if you find a flaw in your logic, you can, like, insert the code to fix it, and you can reorganize your mind, or reorganize your thoughts around it, where it can be aligned again. Like, I didn't get to this point without doing that. That's for sure. And I'm still in the process of doing it, So finding the truth is a lot like that. Like, analyzing a whole bunch of material, trusting and listening to your intuition as well. Like, you can't, not that you should absolutely trust your intuition, because that's yourself. If you don't trust yourself, how can you trust someone else? So this is how you create your own truth about yourself. But also, in creating the truth about yourself, you learn the truth about others. And for me, as in the storytelling, role of a shaman, my goal is to help people find their story and realize their story. So I have my base. There's the grand narrative of humanity as a whole, and we each are characters in this story, of course. But we all have our own stories, like, you talk to anybody, we all have our own stories. So when I help people find their truth by helping them find their role in this grand narrative that we're in. And within this grand narrative, we all have something to do, basically. We're not here just to die. Like, we're here to grow. We're here to just tell our story to its full end and make it come to life. Bring it to life, literally. And that's what our soul is begging to do. And when we become nihilistic and pessimistic, you're putting a block in your story. So I think people want to find their ultimate truth about themselves, and I feel like people can definitely find their truth in recognizing their role in the bigger truth. And I think that's another thing. The bigger truth is that, humanity as a whole is a lot older than you think it is. I think that's why people, they get to Christianity. Like, I posted my baptism video, And I forgot who was saying it, but it's like Christianity, once you get to that enlightened point where you actually accept, not when you recognize your place in the story, and you recognize when you figure out Christ's story is about waking other people up to their truth in the story. So and what he did, you know, proved that, basically. So, but like, I got baptized, and I felt like I reached the pinnacle of Christianity, basically. And so from there, there's no further instruction after that point. Once you accepted God and Jesus into your heart, whatever, from that point on, you're supposed to just be a good Christian, and that's it. It kind of feels like your story doesn't end there, but the sense that your story is sort of just is supposed to just keep going on from there, or you keep evangelizing, bringing more people in, you know. And I think the issue in that is people aren't really sure how to keep doing that without it becoming similar to a cultish feel. Or I think that's why people move away from religions, because religions aren't that old, or at least the modern religions aren't that old. They're only a few thousand years old, and humanity is 500,000. I don't know. We might be even older than that. Who knows? I mean, our DNA is connected to the first DNA that was created. The very first cell that evolved into us. We're connected to that DNA still. Like, we're not disconnected from that. So, and there's been long stretches of history, you know, of just that, of what that first DNA went through, and all the imprints of history across time, on it as well, and that's in us as well, in this collective sense. So we innately understand that there's something much bigger than us out there, because we understand we're much older. Our DNA is much, much older than we think it is. Or not think it is. Our DNA is so much older than we remember it being or realize it is. And religion, not being young, doesn't fulfill the whole soul goal, essentially. So that's why people are leaving religions in droves, because it's like there's absolutely something more out there. I do think, like, for me, like, Christianity really did help align me in, like, the notion that I have to align myself so that I can find spirit through Christ. I think that is like a super. I think the story of Christ is a true story, even though the Bible, whatever. But the story of Christ is, in its essence, is a true story. It wouldn't have survived so long if it wasn't true. It's just all the priestly editings and add-ons that is the issue. So when we align ourselves to the truth of Christ's story, and then we meet him there, and then it's like, okay, now I'm here. It's like, what do I do now to help Christ in this thing? Because not everybody's an evangelist. So, but we should have things with an evangelizing spirit, I suppose. I suppose I'm a bit of I guess I went to an evangelist church, so I guess I have that spirit within me. But I think that's what people are feeling, is this, they don't know how, like, especially for, like, former Christians, I suppose, quote, former Christians, and atheist types is, or people who are too smart for church in the first place, like me, is like, I already recognized there's something. I already knew there was something beyond me in the first place. And I knew that religion was just like a small piece of it, or something that's just, like I was saying before, is like profiting off of people's spiritual ignorance, and how Western civilization has basically erased and commodified all, and coagulated all these other ancient things into one story and all this nonsense. God help us. That's what I'm doing. So we wanted the truth, and that's why we seek out other things like astrology and psychology, and dance around with science and atheism. But all these things, I mean, astrology probably has the most truth for me, just because of it recognizes that there is these things bigger than us in the celestial field, and it does connect to source. Like, I don't know how you can be an atheist and an astrologer at the same time, because you get to recognize that if you recognize that the source, God, is the source of all consciousness, and the consciousness is divided up, and the consciousness, the traits that we get from the stars and planets are the divisions of consciousness that are congealed. Is that the word I want to use? And it's kind of a gross word. That are collected. They're collected pieces of consciousness throughout the universe that beam down, that are imprinted on us at the time of our birth through birth charts. Or our birth charts is a snapshot of the consciousness that was beamed to us, that was waved in, that we breathe into, that we breathed in, that we inhaled on our first breath. And when we first woke up, whatever, and that's our consciousness. That's how I understand astrology. That's why astrology isn't like a belief, I suppose. It's just the imprint of cosmic waves onto your personality when you're born, basically. Sorry, it's like 2 a.m. So recognizing that as a truth, recognizing astrology as a part of the bigger truth of life is, it's a next step forward. And with science doesn't really give us much, because it turns us into animals with no consciousness, and that goes down a downward spiral of, now we're just the next set of animals to be person on Earth, when we're not that. I mean, yes, all living creatures have a consciousness, and the atoms have their own consciousness within them, you could say, in some cases, the quantum consciousness. But, the sense that we're made in God's image, is something that we recognize, like being a walking, talking, thinking human being, is something that is a standard, I suppose. I don't know. Whatever, how you want to put it. That's a bit too complicated again, too. But even science recognizes, even scientists can't avoid the God thing, because there is a source. In Kabbalah, they speak of the, how you say, the previous realities and stuff like that, and breaking into other pieces of divine sparks, basically God's trial and error, which is something I actually came up with on my own a little bit. I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm not going to get into that right now. But it's a part of these bigger truths that do connect to this higher truth. So in turn, I think the reason people are so nihilistic now is because culture has made everything so confusing about what is real and what is not, because the government lies, the media lies, and there's injustice, and there's ugliness, and all these things that are just inverted of how we are against our innate being. So that's why I think that's why a lot of people turn to religion as a crutch, just so they don't have to worry about the bigger truth, because the bigger truth is whatever the church taught me it is, and I'm just going to go where they believe, because if I try to go on my own and believe something or try to figure something out, I don't trust my own intuition. Cool. You know? And when you don't trust your own intuition, you become a part of a hive mind and all that nonsense that goes along with that. People are afraid to individuate, and individuate as in like there's who said that? It was like a collective of individuals, like we are a collective of individuals. I think people end up they purposely underdevelop themselves and in trouble, because they don't develop their own personality or their own intuition about things. So they end up into these movements like fascism, communism, far right, far left ideologies, or any ideology rather, because it's someone thinking for them. It's someone thinking the big thoughts for them instead of them coming up with it for themselves, or downloading the information that you're meant to download. Like for me, like becoming a shaman wasn't my first idea of what I wanted to do in my life, honestly. Obviously, I've always had a number of talents that I didn't know what to do with. So I've been trying to figure out what my specific career should be. And like every time I tried to only isolate one part of myself, it didn't work out. But once I started integrating all the parts of myself, it's been working out a lot. And I've been trusting my own self and trusting the information that I'm receiving from the divine, and trusting the truth that I'm building, because of I'm laying groundwork. I'm putting stuff on top of the groundwork that I'm building, and seeing if it holds, or adding some more to it, and just building on it, because like the truth isn't something that's built in a day, I suppose. I don't know. People have, I'm gonna be done in a minute because I'm tired. I don't want to I'm getting a bit too foggy headed about this. But I feel like I feel like there are a lot of essential truths we understand, but we just don't know how to handle it because we just haven't dealt with truth before. And we're also finding out truth, like we're finding out new truths without doing the work on our foundation as well. Like whenever I gain new information about something and I'm working things in and out of my foundation, or my first principles, or you could say my axioms, is that it's like people aren't doing the proper work in just aligning they're taking their, like, it's like there's trusting your intuition and having your own opinions, but you have to allow, opinions are malleable. You have to allow your opinions to change, because your opinions aren't facts, and your opinions are just based off your feelings at the time. So, like, I feel like I don't speak opinions anymore, but I could just be an opinion myself. But I try not to be overly opinionated, because I know that's speaking too emotionally. But I also I don't try to over intellectualize things as well, because that takes the spirit out of the words. I feel like it takes out it almost feels like I'm bullshitting the truth at that point, because it's something that's just true. It's just true. Like, I don't have to do anything more fancy to it, to dress it up any kind of way, or because it gets the meaning starts to get muddled the more language you add to it. So I said this before, like I was saying this in my other videos, like there's like truth, love, beauty, justice. These things just have these things are the archetype, and everything else is connected to that. But you can't redescribe what that is at the core. Like Jupiter is Jupiter, and it has the moons around it connected to it, basically. Like if Jupiter is justice, like it is in my chart, I'll say. So Jupiter is justice. Everything else that's connected to justice is just the moons around it. Okay, I guess I'm getting my time is up. So just the truth is the truth is we recognize there's a higher truth, and we recognize the truth in our DNA at our core. But we have to trust our own intuitions about it, and we have to allow it to come out. Once you start admitting things, but like clean your own room. Admit things to yourself first. And when you start admitting the truth to yourself about yourself, then you'll start realizing what other things are true as well. Like with figuring out who I am is, that's the ultimate truth, is figure out who you are. And then once you figure out who you are, everything else falls into place. Once you start taking that aspect and moving it forward. Or just applying it in other parts of your life. So